Have you ever noticed that the groceries you buy cost more each month, even though your retirement check remains the same? For millions of Americans stepping into their golden years, that creeping squeeze of higher prices is anything but theoretical. It's a daily reality that silently erodes the nest egg they've spent decades building. In 2021, inflation surged to a 4-decade high of 7%. And although it has cooled somewhat, it still hovered around 3.4% through mid-2024, more than double the Federal Reserve's long-term target. While Social Security's annual cost of living adjustment for 2025 was a modest 2.5%, leaving retirees with a net loss in purchasing power. The problem is straightforward. When the cost of essentials like food, housing, and medicine climbs faster than retirement incomes, what looks like a stable monthly benefit check actually buys you less and less with each passing year. To see how profound this is, consider that in 2023, the median 401k balance for households aged 65 to 74 sat just above $87,000, enough to cover barely 3 years of average annual retirement spending, and that many seniors rely on those accounts to top off what Social Security alone cannot cover. But even those balances are vulnerable. At an ongoing inflation rate of 3%, a retiree withdrawing $5,000 per month would see the real value of those payments diminish by roughly $150 every year, transforming a comfortable lifestyle into a tightening belt far sooner than planned. How did we arrive at a point where routine price increases can threaten someone's ability to pay for insulin, mortgage, or a simple trip to the grocery store? It begins with decades-old assumptions baked into our retirement architectures. Social Security was designed during the 1930s amid the stability of low inflation and a payroll tax model that assumed a healthy ratio of workers to retirees. Pensions, once common in manufacturing and unionized industries, promised fixed monthly payments based on salary and years of service, with cost of living provisions that tracked moderate inflation. Yet by the 1980s, those defined benefit plans began to vanish in the private sector, replaced by 401ks and IRAs that shift market and inflation risk entirely onto individuals. Meanwhile, the Consumer Price Index accelerated unexpectedly in the aftermath of the global pandemic, supply chain disruptions and energy price shocks, exposing a vulnerability that honestly few retirees had fully anticipated. Take Helen, a 71-year-old former administrative assistant in Dayton, Ohio, who lives on a fixed monthly Social Security check of $1,600. Last year, her utility bill jumped by 12%, and her grocery expenses rose by 8%, yet her COLA bump was only 3.2%. She told me she now skips medications to make sure she can put food on the table, a choice no one should face after a lifetime of work. Helen's story is heartbreaking but hardly unique. According to the Senior Financial Stability Survey of 2024, nearly 6 in 10 retirees reported dipping into savings to cover routine costs, and more than a third admitted they've had to cut back on medical care just to stretch their dollars. And, the silent culprit behind all of this isn't just inflation itself, it's the way our policies, investment vehicles, and social safety nets fail to keep pace. Federal retirement programs only adjust benefits once a year, often by a fixed percentage that lags actual price increases. And those adjustments rely on a broad measure of inflation that underweights key categories like housing and healthcare, costs that disproportionately affect older adults. Meanwhile, private retirement accounts offer no built-in inflation protection. Without Treasury Inflation-Protected Securities or other hedges, even a well-diversified portfolio can lose real value when prices climb faster than expected. Housing adds another layer of complexity. As rents and property taxes climb, many seniors find themselves house-rich but cash-poor, unable to tap equity without taking on reverse mortgages or high fees, and, wary of downsizing in a volatile market. Healthcare remains the most unpredictable expense of all. with Medicare premiums, co-pays and supplemental plan costs rising faster than general inflation, pushing average out-of-pocket spending above $6,000 per year for the typical retiree couple. Taken together, these factors create a systemic squeeze. Retirees face rising costs in nearly every corner of their budgets, while the incomes meant to support them inch upward at best and sometimes even fall behind during years of low or zero cost of living adjustments. So, what does the future hold if nothing changes? Projections from leading retirement researchers suggest that by the year 2030, the average retiree could see an additional 15% erosion in purchasing power compared to today's dollars. That means the incomes that funded a comfortable lifestyle 10 years ago would honestly fund only the bare essentials in the next decade. For married couples turning 65 this year, that gap could amount to tens of thousands of dollars in lost real income over a typical 20-year retirement. Yet even these forecasts may underestimate the impact, since they assume moderate inflation and periodic policy tweaks, optimistic scenarios at best. In the absence of meaningful reform, the most vulnerable, those with low savings, insufficient pensions or high healthcare needs, could face real hunger, housing insecurity, or the inability to afford basic medical treatments. Is there hope for a turnaround? On the policy front, some proposals have gained traction, indexing Social Security benefits to the chain-weighted CPI, which better reflects costs of shelter and drugs, expanding senior savings accounts with built-in inflation hedges, and increasing funding for programs like the low-income subsidy for Medicare Part D. In the private sector, financial advisors are more and more recommending allocating a portion of retirement portfolios to TIPS, I-bonds, or real asset funds that can provide a buffer against rising prices. Early automatic enrollment in such strategies, combined with longer working lives, 30% of Americans now plan to keep working past age 70, could help slow the erosion. Yet these solutions require both political will and individual education. Surveys show that fewer than 1 in 5 Americans over 60 hold any inflation-protected securities in their retirement accounts, and many retirees still believe their Social Security checks will cover every expense. Even as economists warn that the program's trust fund won't be able to pay full benefits after 2033 without tax hikes or benefit cuts. For younger workers looking ahead, the message is even more urgent. Don't assume a static income. Secure a diversified portfolio that includes inflation hedges and growth assets. Plan for healthcare costs that could exceed $400,000 over a 20-year span. And consider delaying full retirement age to maximize lifetime benefits. Most importantly, talk openly about these risks with financial professionals, family members, and community groups. Retirement planning is no longer a set-and-forget endeavor, but a dynamic process that must adapt to evolving economic realities. Ultimately, beating inflation in retirement isn't about chasing returns on hope. It's about building a resilient income plan that adjusts in real time to rising costs, whether through policy advocacy, strategic investments, or phased work arrangements. By acknowledging the silent threat of inflation, taking practical steps now, and pushing for smarter safeguards at every level, retirees and future retirees alike can preserve the dignity and security that should come with a lifetime of effort. If this deep dive opened your eyes to how inflation can stealthily chip away at your savings, hit like to help others find it, subscribe for more data-driven insights, and share your own experiences or strategies in the comments below. Because when it comes to protecting our futures, the conversation starts right here.